you should be able to see something there. So let's get started. The power of giving, something that I've really enjoyed over many, many years. And it's really fundamentally based on the law of reciprocity, which basically it revolves around the fact that if someone does something really good to you, kind to you, extends some great service to you, it triggers something that's deep within your psychology, your psychology, to urge you to do something nice in return. It's quite a fundamental sort of a human reaction. But the interesting thing is that one may even reciprocate with something which is even far more generous than what the original good deed was. And like in most laws, there's always a bit of a but. And that but is that the power of giving stems from unconditional giving, giving with an open heart, an open mind, not measured, calculated, or cynical giving. And the reason I say that is because as humans, we all have our own instincts, and we often trust our instincts. And we can pick up just those little wee signals that someone is perhaps doing something quite cynically because they want to achieve something rather than giving with an open heart. Now, one of the things I just want to share with you is some stories of some situations where giving has been quite a, going back in time from some well-known figures who have been involved in giving, and for them it's been something really quite special, which has changed their lives. Now, let's just go to Katherine Hepburn. You say, where does Katherine Hepburn fit into the whole picture? Well, it's obviously a fantastic, amazing actress, but something special about her that I learned only recently is that she was very grounded. She was very loyal to her roots. She had a very strong support of her local community. She never forgot where she came from. And she was also not only a fantastic actress, but also a great philanthropist. And I saw a little posting sometime a wee while ago on Facebook. Now, I pay very little attention to a lot of postings on Facebook because there's a lot of bogus stuff that goes on. But I saw an article about an experience that she had in giving. And I actually did my own independent research on that to find out that, yeah, it's genuine. So I want to tell the story of the circus experience. And this was a situation where she recounted that back in the 30s, her father said, look, I'll take you to the circus. The circus is in town. Let's do something fantastic. So circuses were all the rage at that time. So she tells a story that they went to the circus and they were there waiting to buy their tickets, and they were waiting behind a number of people, but there was one family right in front of them. And she says from her own recollection, they didn't look like they were a particularly well-to-do family, but they were tidy and they were very proud and they were very happy and excited to be attending the circus. There was the mother and the father and 8 children. Now, the queue moved forward and the father came to the booth to buy the ticket. And he proudly says, I'd like to have 2 tickets for adults and 8 children, please. And he said, how much will that be? The lady told him, and he just froze because he didn't have enough money to buy the tickets for his family. He looked around behind him and he sensed the disappointment that they would have if they didn't go to the circus. Sensing all this, Katherine Hepburn's father, he had $20 in his pocket. So he dropped it on the ground behind the gentleman. He said, excuse me, sir, I think you dropped this from your pocket. So he picked it up and he thrust it into the chap's hand. And the guy was sort of trembling with emotion. He knew that what was going on. He didn't really need charity or want charity, but it was so important. It was an act of giving. So he said, thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much. So the family went to the circus, but the $20 that Katherine Hepburn's father gave to the family was the money that they were going to use to get into the circus. So they never actually ended up going and enjoying the circus experience. But there's some very special words that she recounts. Although we didn't get to see the circus that night, we both felt a joy inside us that was far greater than seeing a circus could ever provide. That day I learned the value to give. And this quote here basically puts it all in a nutshell. The giver is bigger than the receiver. If you want to be larger than life, learn to give. Love has nothing to do with what you're expecting to get, only what you're expecting to give, which is everything. The importance of giving, blessing others can never be overemphasized because there is always joy in giving. Learn to make someone happy by acts of giving. And that's from Katherine Hepburn's book. A lovely quote and a lovely story. Now I want to turn it into some more recent and personal context. And I wanted to share with you a ripping yarn from Theo's Greek Taverna. You say, well, what's this place? Well, between 1997 and 2006, I owned and operated, amongst a whole range of other things, Theo's Greek Taverna in Wellington. And we, were finalists for the Best Customer Service Award and the National Hospitality Awards in 1998. We won a whole host of awards, Best Greek Restaurant in New Zealand, so on and so forth. But the reason for that was we had an awesome team. And I want to introduce you to Vladimir, or Vlad as we called him. That's Vlad there on the right. He was a Serbian gentleman. He grew up in Greece. He spent a lot of his time there. He worked in hospitality establishments. He was an absolute polished, consummate professional. And together we were an absolutely awesome team. We spent a lot of time together getting ready for service, during service, and even after service. When we finished, we'd go down to Courtney Place and have a coffee or a burger, whatever it was, and recount stories from our own personal experiences. And there's one story in particular that Vlad told me, it's probably over 20 years ago, that I never ever forgot. And I'll share that with you. And this is about the power of giving a sandal. Something quite, obscure, you might say. But Vlad recounts a story. He was living in a place called Larissa in central Greece. Very hot, middle of summer. He was going to catch up with some friends in the platia, in the local square. So he went down there and he was waiting, on the edge of the square there at the appointed place to meet up with his friends. And he was waiting there, puffing away on a cigarette like Europeans do. They smoke like trains. And out of the shop, just nearby where he was standing, a shopkeeper came out. And he happened to be a shopkeeper that sells sandals and shoes and those sorts of things. So he sort of comes up to Vlad and says, would you like to buy some sandals? We've got a wonderful range of sandals. Why don't you come inside and have a look? And Vlad says, thank you, sir. Very kind of you, but I'm just waiting to catch up with my friends here. And I don't need any sandals, but thank you very much for the offer. Anyway, the guy persists, but look, we've got wonderful sandals. They look fantastic on you. Come inside and just have a look. You don't have to buy, just come and have a look. Thank you, sir, but no, I'm fine. I don't need any sandals. Thank you. So anyway, partly defeated, the guy retreats back into his shop. But as you know, Greeks aren't prone to giving up. They can be quite persuasive or persistent. You go back to Helen of Troy. They built the wooden horse, of course. But anyway, the chap comes out of his shop again shortly, and he takes another tack. Just come inside and have a look. I've got some special sandals that no one has seen yet. They're absolutely beautiful. They're very special. And anyway, we went through the whole banter again. And nothing happened. So anyway, he retreats back into his shop again. And then a few minutes later, he comes out. He says, okay, if you don't want to come inside and have a look, or you don't want to buy a pair of sandals, here, I will give you a pair of sandals, beautiful sandals, and here you are. Please take these. And Vlad, of course, who's grown up on the whole concept, the Greek concept of philoxenia, of kindness to strangers and receiving graciously. So he graciously accepted the gift. said, thank you, sir. You really shouldn't have, but I appreciate the thought. I appreciate the love. Thank you. So he took the sandals, caught up with his friends, and off he went. About a week later, the Serbian tribe, the Serbian family tribe, they arrived for their summer holidays in Larissa. So anyway, they went out to lunch and they're sitting there having a meal. Of course, as you know, it gets pretty hot in the middle of summer in Larissa or any part of Greece. And the whole tribe, I mean, when I'm talking about the tribe, I'm talking about grandparents, sisters, brothers, grandchildren, a whole lot of them. And while they're having lunch, the grandmother says, you know, we didn't really come that well prepared. It's actually very hot here, isn't it? Vlad, do you know of any nice place where we can go and buy a pair of sandals or something? So where do you think he took them? Wild guess. He took them to the place where the guy had given them the gift of the sandals. So he had given that gift of sandals to Vlad with an open heart, no expectation of anything coming back, but he ended up selling about 10 pairs of sandals by Vlad's reckoning. So that's just an illustration, a lovely story on the power of giving with an open heart. So let's just now move it into a more local context and some of my personal experiences. In the last 12 months, I have actually picked up more orphan insurance clients, and I'll explain what I mean by that. More orphan insurance clients in the last 12 months than I have in the preceding 8 years. And by orphan insurance clients, I mean situations where the advisor may have passed away or retired or left the industry. And there's a fair few leaving the industry at the moment because of the changes in the legislation, the compliance obligations, and so on. That's one category of orphan client. The other might be from situations where the client has simply not been happy with the quality or the type of advice they've been getting from existing advisors, or they've had concerns about escalating premiums or issues relating to their covers, that they wanted just some clarity, and they felt that some of these advisors were not willing to do that, to give them the advice, to spend time explaining things if there wasn't any dollars involved. Okay. So these people have come to me and said, look, we're not happy with this current situation. Can you just help us? So I've just taken it as just part of this whole concept of giving of my time to undertake an analysis, to provide documented advice to them, which helps them understand what they're doing, that, whatever. And they've been truly grateful for that. And so much so that they said, we would like you to be our ongoing servicing advisor. That's great. So what does it do? By giving of yourself, just showing kindness to help a prospective client without expecting anything can result in a number of things. Firstly, their genuine appreciation that you've taken the effort, you've shown them the respect and the care to do what you do. Obviously, the immediate thing, the benefit is that they trust and they have a willingness to refer you to others. And straight away, by just showing that kindness, they have referred me to others in their family and friends circle. They become very loyal. And further down the track, of course, if their circumstances change and they need to review and increase their insurances, then obviously that is an opportunity for income to us. And I can just quote one example. People came, their premiums had been escalating quite substantially. They had had absolutely no help from their existing advisor to explain, whether that was justifiable or the circumstances. So I did the analysis, I did the comparisons, I documented that, I presented it to them and showed them ways that they could maintain the quality of their covers, but save themselves some money. And they really appreciated that. So there was nothing in it for me financially. But roll on another 9 months later, they came back to me and said, look, we've sold our own home. We've now got a 1.1 million mortgage. we need to increase our insurances. So of course we go through the exercise, do it all properly, and the income comes back. So it generates an opportunity for us. So let's move it now into another forum, another situation. It's closer to home because most of us here are members of the networking group. And I see that not as a forum to gain, but a forum to give. And in my experience in the 7 years, I've seen all different sorts of approaches in terms of how people, when they come into that network, respond or how they deal with it. Now, the first one is the instant gratification. People come to a meeting and they're absolutely thrilled with the camaraderie, you know, the evidence of referrals coming and going in all directions, the energy, the vibrancy in the room, and they say, wow, I want to be part of this. So they sign up almost on the spot, and then they wait for the leads and the referrals and the business to come, but they don't come. And, you know, those people are gone just as quickly as they came because they didn't quite understand the concept of giving. And giving doesn't mean that you need to actually give something physical or give a lead. It means that you can give of yourself to respect your colleagues in the networking group, to spend time to understand their situation, to understand their business, to understand what they are looking for so that you are in a position to refer people to them. I can use an example from my restaurant, Theo's Greek Taverna, where in the first few months that we had opened, we were approached by all manner of representatives from wine retailers, wholesalers, and so on and so forth. You know, you would get some coming through the door. They just cursorily, you know, cast their eyes around the place and just say, look, here's the wines that we've got. These are really selling like hotcakes around town. This is what you need, sign here. Sorry, not interested. We had other representatives that came in. They said, tell us about your business. You know, what are you trying to achieve here? What are your price points? What is the experience that you're providing? But not only do they invest the time in asking you those questions and learning about your business, but they showed you the respect by actually making the booking to come to your establishment on a Friday or Saturday night, listen to the entertainment that we provide, take a full appreciation of the whole experience that we're providing, and then we can talk about what, you know, best suits our needs. They are the people that I like to deal with because they respected what we're doing. They gave of themselves. So the second category of those people who come in with the best of intents, but then they say after a few months, you know, it's not really working for me. And I can quote a very good example of a good friend of mine, Rob Gale from Driveline. And I know he's not concerned. He loves me mentioning this because he openly uses it as an example himself of how people can turn things around. And he said to me after about 3 months, you know, over a coffee, TNG isn't working for me. And I said, okay, what aren't you doing? What are you doing? Have you sat down with each individual, had a coffee with them, learned about their business, what it is that they're looking for, and whether the light comes on that you might be able to help them, and so on and so forth? And he says, no, I haven't done that, but I certainly will. And then he said about doing that, having these coffees, talking to people, seeing what he can do to help them, and vice versa. And the business started pouring in. Now, Rob is an exceptional member of our network of TNG. He's been a member for about 5 years. He gets so much of his business, not just one-off business through the network, but ongoing repeat business. And he is one of the biggest fans of the network. So that just shows how things can be turned around simply by giving of oneself and talking to other people. And then lastly, there's the people magnets, the referral magnets, those people who get it from day one. you know, who give of themselves, they get around, they talk to everyone, they understand businesses, they make the effort to give referrals, but they become magnets for referrals in their own right. So it comes back to the old saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. But I've just inserted the word net there. So the harder I network, the luckier I get. Okay. So TNG provides an opportunity. And I was actually very lucky to learn about it quite by accident in 2014, as Dan mentioned. I was at another networking function, this, you know, organised by the Auckland Chamber, and an insurance advisor who I still know very well said to me, "Oh, Theo, are you a member of a networking group?" And no, I wasn't at that stage. And she says, "Oh, I'm a member of this networking group I've just found out about. Really cool." And the only networking group that I'd heard of at that time was the one that starts with B. I won't say it out loud. But she said, "No, the group is TNG." So anyway, I went home and I, you know, did a search and found out, and I saw, oh, great, there's going to be a branch opening in Silverdale. But as it turned out, the insurance lot was already taken. So the people at TNG put me on the waiting list, and Ellerslie popped up. So ever since, I've been a member of TNG in Ellerslie. And in that time that I've been a member, I've just found it an incredible investment of time, money, and energy. And it's come back multiple fold over that period of time. But the key thing that I want to stress, though, is that the benefits go far beyond money alone. The thing is that we can learn from other people around that table who have expertise and skills outside our own skill set and experience. And I'll give you two examples. I'm not a lawyer or a bush lawyer, but Kanu Patel, who was one of our foundation members at Ellerslie, very experienced accountant, such an amazing guy. And in one of his 10-minute slots, he gave probably the best account of using trusts and the structures of trusts and so on and so forth that I'd ever heard, even from a lawyer. So that was exceptional. I learned a heck of a lot. Okay, since then, trust law has changed quite dramatically, but at that time, that was an absolute godsend. Another example is we had a litigation lawyer in that group, and he gave a presentation. Not that everyone litigates, you know, regularly, but he said that if you ever need a litigation lawyer, there are ways that you can get the best use out of them and minimize the cost by doing a number of things. And he outlined all the sorts of things that would help people get good service, but at the same time, aim to keep, you know, the costs down. So that was just one opportunity. The other thing is that over that time, there are many people, myself included, who have built enduring business relationships with people. But more than that, we've become long-term friends. And that's another enriching thing about TNG. Building confidence and perfecting one's pitch. You know, recently, or 12 months ago, we started the Hibiscus Coast group. And in that group, there was a lovely young lady, about 23. She was a bit nervous when she started, but, you know, you could see that she was an absolute professional. And over that time, she has grown hugely. And we're all really incredibly proud of how she's just blossomed. And in the last 3 months, she has started her own business as a virtual assistant, does bookkeeping, invoicing, all these sorts of things. And her business is really going places because of the credibility and belief that she's built up through TNG. And lastly, not to forget that in the last 18 months, we've been through a lot of stuff, right through COVID. And in that time, there was some members of our groups who were really severely hit. Basically, their businesses disappeared overnight. And the way in which our group gathered around these people helped them, nurtured them, supported them, gave them ideas, helped them to refocus and change their business models. That was really heart-rendering. It really is. I get very emotional when I think about that. So for all intents and purposes, TNG really is a family. That's a picture of our Orewa group, a wonderful group. They're all great groups, but TNG is a family. The other thing that has been really important to me has been, over a long period of time, giving back to the community, only for the purpose and for the motivation of doing something to give to the community in which we live. And in early 2017, I just joined the local Rotary club in Orewa-Millwater. I'd never been a member of a Rotary club before, but we were just a small group of us sitting around the table and saying, well, what can we do to do something for the community? So I thought, well, okay, you know, I'm Greek, I play music, entertainment, I've had a restaurant, I've got contacts with the Greek catering people here in Auckland, I've got access to a whole range of musicians, dancing troupes and so on and so forth. Why don't we do a Greek extravaganza as a fundraiser for hospice, you know, an important local charity? So we went ahead and did it. We started off, the first year we got 110 people, and now for the last 4 years or 3 years, we've had 250 sellout crowds, sold out well before the event. And it's just been so rewarding. We've raised 66,000 in 4 years. And we have the 5th anniversary event this Saturday, the 4th of December this year. That's been hugely satisfying. And that's just a picture, some of the spectacle from the Greek extravaganza, which has just been wonderful. The whole thing about this is that not only do you feel that you're giving a lot of your time to the community, but it's such a lot of fun. It's an absolute blast to do. We really enjoy it. You know, and of course, if you're in the band, you get to perform as well. But the other thing that really is quite relevant here is that we talk about giving and how it comes back to you. Now, insurance, as Yvonne would know, insurance isn't the sexiest thing in the world, or Melanie would know. You know, a lot of people don't like to talk about insurances, you know, so it's hard, you know. A lot of people don't often ask, do you know a good insurance advisor? Sometimes they do. It's a bit unlike, you know, garden services or that sort of thing. People always want someone to mow their lawns. So it's not always possible someone in the group will come back with a referral for insurance. But the thing is that it can come back in other ways. Rob Gale, the gentleman that I mentioned previously from Driveline, I said to him one day, Rob, I'm trying to find sponsors for the Greek extravaganza. Do you know of anyone who I could possibly approach? And he thought about it and he said, yes, I do. I know a lady who owns that supermarket. You know, she supported our fishing club in the past. Go meet with her. But the only tip I can give you, she's a very busy lady. She's a yes, no. She wants the answers there really quick. Don't dither around, just go bang, bang, bang. This is who we are. This is what we do. Can you help us? So I made an appointment, saw the lady, bang. I walked out with $3,000, you know, for the community event. So it comes back to you in other ways. It doesn't need to be related to your business, but it can come back in other ways. Now, on this page here, we have community sponsors. There are 17 community sponsors there. 14 of them are members of TNG, or who have been members of TNG. So that's the point I'm highlighting, that you can give of yourself, it can come back to you, but it doesn't necessarily need to be for your business. It can be through some other cause that you support, that people come and pay it back. The other thing is I've got involved with the Silverdale Business Association, once again through a lady who was actively involved in TNG. And she's been heavily involved in helping set up business associations around the North Shore area. She invited me to come and get involved with the local Silverdale Business Association committee. Now, I sat there at meetings for maybe 6 months, 12 months, I don't know. It seemed to go forever, but it was like an old boys coffee club. There were times I thought to myself, what am I doing here? I'm not really achieving anything. It is purely voluntary, but as it turned out, just prior to the big COVID shutdown last year, there was a mass resignation of the leadership. And as I was deputy chair at the time, I was suddenly catapulted into the position of chair of the business association. So we set about immediately setting up a good quality of people, a good group of people who are all very happy to give of themselves in a voluntary capacity to get on the bus and help drive the association forward. So we've been busy doing business networking, business after 5 events. We've been creating online training webinars, and we're working to help other businesses grow. And one of the big projects we've got at the moment is recreating a heart for Silverdale. But the good thing about it is that you meet some great people. Now, this is all voluntary. It takes time, it takes energy, but I love doing it because we meet some great people. And at the end of the day, the exposure that it provides, it does come back to you and it helps you in your business. Not that that's ever been the primary motivation. So I don't know if there's any cricketers in our audience, but this is a recent networking event that we had that was hosted by Talos Group Real Estate in Silverdale. That guy there is Billy Bowden, the umpire, who was very famous for his crooked finger dismissals of batsmen. So you meet some wonderful people along the way. It's an incredible journey. So we're coming close to the end. The power of giving. This is just a lovely quote that I like. As we work to create light for others, we naturally light our own way. Another way of putting it is if we throw light on others, we naturally throw light on ourselves. That's just the way it works. So just to summarize it in my own words, the power of giving. Giving without the expectation of receiving anything in return is one of the most powerful actions that we can undertake in helping others, while gaining the satisfaction in knowing that we have helped make a difference to someone else. So that's really basically the last word, but very happy to take any questions, comments, whatever. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Theo. That was a great session. Does anyone have any questions?
Maybe not so much as a question, more as a ringing endorsement for Theo. I've been with him through Ellerslie for almost as long as he has. I've got to be way over 6 years now, and I didn't need an insurance agent. And no matter what Melanie says about it being sexy, well, maybe not. But over the 3 years or so, I got to know, like, and trust Theo. We had one-on-ones and we got to know each other, but we actually didn't do any work together. And then he ran his first Greek extravaganza. And at that time, I was doing a project with a company who had the trikes. And I said, yes, I can put one up as a prize for you. I saw then what he did to the community, the relationships he had during the evening, and the exposure he generated for me by taking a punt with something which cost me nothing. I got so much recognition and revenue out of that one event. In fact, I actually became the poster boy on the Silverdale magazine. And he told me a year later, that magazine was still sitting in the local fish and chip shop. There I was, sitting on my trike. I bought that business subsequently. I own that trike business. When I needed an insurance broker to fix my commercial insurance, who did I go to? Theo. He found a deal for me. It's worked perfectly, and the last 2 years, it's just flown straight through. He organized it. I trust him. It happens. It's easy. So, well done, mate. Opa.
Thanks, Nigel. Yeah, I certainly applaud. Yeah, Nigel donated a 4-hour ride on one of his Ruwako bikes from our very first Greek extravaganza. And that has been an absolute staple each year. And that's brought a lot of revenue back to hospice. So thank you, Nigel. Fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. So thinking about how we can work in our own businesses to give out, and it comes back tenfold. Had some awesome stories, and thanks, Nigel, for sharing as well. Now, has anyone else having an own example in their own business of how they've sponsored something or it's come back tenfold or anything like that?
Dan, it's not an answer to your question, but Cheryl's just posted the power of doing things long term, and that's what I wrote down in my notes. It's about having that long term thinking, not short term thinking, not wanting, not giving and expecting something to come back straight away. Awesome presentation, Theo. Thank you so much, and I'm sure Melanie Budden will agree that this is what we at the management team, ownership team of TNG are all about. It's just so rewarding to see the business that's being done and the personalities that are being created and grown through our networking group. So thanks very much, Theo. That was an awesome and inspiring presentation. Really appreciate it.
When is the next Greek extravaganza?
Were you paying attention? Saturday, the 4th of December.
4th of December, right. We can pop that in the diaries for sure. No, that sounds amazing. Perfect. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. What we'll do is we'll do a wrap around the room, just introduce yourself, what you do, and maybe share something that you got out of today's session that can inspire you. So let's get started with Cheryl.
Thank you, Dan. So what I do is I help coaches and entrepreneurs to gain credibility through speaking to groups, speaking in public about what it is they do, sharing their story, and by connecting with people that way, face to face, and eventually through this type of format too. But at the moment, I'm working with face to face, and I believe that that's where you gain that credibility, by actually connecting with people. So, if you go to a seminar and there's a person at the front of the room, that's the person you consider the expert, and that's the person who will become credible in your eyes if they do a good job of it. And I help put people up there in the front of the room. And I really got something out of what Theo said today. Thank you. And it really has confirmed for me that the power of doing things longer term, being that person there sharing and helping without the expectation of getting something. And you're absolutely right. There's a group I belong to that I've been putting a lot in for. I mean, I get a lot out of it myself, but I put a lot in as well. And 5 minutes before this meeting started, a message came through from someone in that group and said, "Is this right? Do you do this? I've got someone that really needs your help." So a potential client, and not because I was necessarily in that group to take, but more to give. So yeah, thank you, Theo. It's very powerful.
Thank you.
Awesome. Melanie?
Which one?
Well, the insurance is sexy one.
Thank you, and thanks to Theo for inviting me today. I actually don't have a role as such. Maybe Theo could tell you better about what I do than I could. My passion is supporting financial advisors to actually stay in our business. And the reason that's really important right now, as Theo alluded to, the financial industry is going through a massive regulatory change, which has proved both confusing and stressful and onerous for a lot of financial advisors. Ken would be aware of that with the Mortgage Lab. It has been huge. So my role really is that of the support role. So I resonate with Theo's values around giving, because That is my passion, and it's a passion born of an infinite goal. If any of you are Simon Sinek followers, he talks about infinite goals and finite goals. An infinite goal is one you will never achieve, but you will die trying. My infinite goal is to see everybody in New Zealand have a plan B, have a survival kit, and not have to rely on give a little and the kindness of strangers in the event they should have a massive crisis in their life, which I've experienced, and I'm sure all of you have at some point, or know people in your family who have lost loved ones way too early or had other crises. So I'm really here just to support Theo. And Theo, thank you for inviting me and for posting this on we have a community called Advisor Connect Community or Cooperative on Facebook, which is anybody can be part of. It's primarily for financial advisors or people in the industry who would find it interesting. But it does make me realize a lot of financial advisors don't really understand how to connect with other people to get that message out, the value of what they do and why it's so important. And a group or an organization like TNG is incredibly valuable as a vehicle for them to not only have the kind of connection that they may find with other financial advisors, but with wider small to medium-sized business practitioners who, as Theo alluded to, can all learn so much from each other. So thank you very much for including me on this. That's me.
Thanks, Melanie.
And Garth, we've met in another life, so hello.
Nigel.
Thanks, Dan. Nigel, Phoenix Consultancy Services, and my focus is on the back-end systems and processes in your business, all the areas where extra profits are just hiding in plain sight. Things like using your Google My Business listing, optimizing that properly to get free organic search results rather than paying for Facebook or Google or whatever. Using LinkedIn properly, using the database you've got, segmenting your database, but also leveraging from groups, from your connections, because it's not a case of what I can sell to Melanie, it's who can she introduce me to. And then within the group meetings, it's okay to organize coffee catch-up one-on-ones. But when you actually go to someone outside of that, you don't want just a coffee catch-up, because automatically it's, what are you trying to sell me? Put a name to that meeting, some kind of diagnostic product name, service name. And so we're going to get together and we're going to organize a diagnostic on X, on your financial profile, on your mortgage overheads, all right? On your CRM structure, something like that. By putting a brand around it, you're automatically positioning yourself as more of an authority rather than just someone trying to hawk off six-pack special for this week. And also, if there's enough value in it, there's no reason why you can't charge for that. Put an expense to it. Even if you say, this normally retails at $500 and I will rebate that when you commit to working with me long term. Right? You're putting a value to your expertise. So there's so many good ways that we can take all this stuff. Use what you've got. You know, there's a number of us here who've got blonde highlights. So there's a lot of experience that goes with that. I mean, even, people like Garth, he wears his hair with a wide parting these days. But, we've got the expertise there. We can leverage from each other. And that's the beauty of this kind of group, this kind of structure, even these events. And, I guess each of us needs to just work harder to get more people attending. There is so much we can get from all this stuff. So, it's my 10-minute platform. Thanks, Dan.
No problem, Nigel. We've got Ken.
Yeah, hi, everyone. Ken Jackson, the Mortgage Lab. Recently, we've seen the market, the interest rates are going up. but there's likely to be banks bringing out new assessment criteria. So in the months ahead, there could be harder to get lending. So if you are looking at a property purchase, now's a good time to progress with that rather than wait for a few months. It might be a changing landscape. Interest rates are, of course, going up and up. So have a look at those, and quite often you can break out of your existing fixed and refix it. We'll make some long-term savings. Yeah, Ken Jackson, the Mortgage Lab.
Awesome. And we have got Malcolm.
A great presentation, Theo. Thanks. It just reminds us about the core values that we need to make sure in place as business owners and fathers and all those other sorts of things. So thank you for a great presentation. I work with business success partners as a business coach. The name Simon Sinek's been covered off once. If there's one thing I think that I could do for my clients was to apply the learnings from Simon Sinek's The Why. To go back and understand where your business fits into your life, why you created this particular vehicle to deliver your life outcomes. If I could do one thing and reinforce one thing today in terms of what we do, it would be that we help our clients to clarify their why. Malcolm and I with the Business Success Partners Group.
Awesome, thank you. There's something gone wrong with my video, but that's okay. We've got John.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, guys, I just missed the last 5 or 6 minutes. Somebody, Paul Holmes from a mortgage broker from another group just rang to give me a lead. Very nice. Poor old Paul, he's always stressed. The poor guy's having to settle 13 loans for the day, which is a lot for anybody. Several things. Absolutely loved and adored the presentation this morning, Theo, and thought, it was to be expected from a lovely guy like you, that's for sure. You're a real giving guy, and I always enjoy coming across you at our local coffee shop, that's for sure. One thing that came out of it, and is always prevalent to me too, is people by people, and people that are actually coming to me, and there's an awful lot of people come to me just slightly, because by the way, so I'm an investment advisor, I'm a certified financial planner. I help people basically make work optional with investment. They're actually coming to me a lot of the time because they're looking for a relationship, believe it or not. They're looking for my 33 years experience, the type of work that I do, which is a little bit different from a lot of other people, but they're looking for that relationship because, you can't have a relationship with an algorithm as hard as you try. It just doesn't happen. And I think that's why a lot of people come to people like ourselves, because they are looking for that. One thing that I was also reminded about just recently in a group, because I like to jump around groups and build relationships within the TNG group network. One person has been given sent a few emails and a label to for this particular person, but he's not really acknowledging that communication or thanking that person appropriately. There was a sort of a cursed in one of the groups, cursed sort of thank you at a meeting, but that actually was another mortgage broker referring to a lawyer, and the lawyer just doesn't give him that appropriate thank you, and that mortgage broker won't be given any more business to that person, and I think that's rather sad. So I'll be sitting down with that person to, I guess, try and explain that in the nicest possible way. But people like to be acknowledged, people like to be thanked, and so it's something really to remember, and it's something I always remember when I come across Theo, because he's such a giving person. So that's me, John from Collaborative Consulting, where we provide less risk, more control, and greater certainty. Oh, and one last thing, one other little tagline that I love to say to some people sometimes is, I got this from a meeting in Chicago, of all places, which is, service is not a random act of kindness. It's actually our job. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Welcome.
Sorry, I've already spoken, Dan.
Oh, sorry, you have too. Not a bad. Well, I guess there is the other Melanie. So Melanie, go ahead.
Thanks, Dan. And thank you, Theo. That for those of you that aren't aware, Theo is an area group manager for the networking group at our Hibiscus Coast, Silverdale and Orewa groups. as well as the group manager at our Warkworth group. So we are very, very grateful for all that you give to the networking group and the kind and caring way that you look after our members. So thank you very much for that. In advance of this morning's meeting, I had prepared 3 tips for entering a networking meeting, and I think one of them is particularly appropriate. But my first is, before you walk in the room, am I focused or distracted? So prepare to be mentally present when you walk into the room, to connect with the people that are there, to get value for both yourself and for them. My second one is, how will I make a good first impression? And for me, I always put a smile on my face. So I just try, no matter what's going on, to smile, and you should get a smile in return. The third one is, what can I do to build authentic relationships and to build trust? And I think that is so relevant today, because as Theo says, the best thing you can do to build authentic relationships and build trust is to give. So thank you, Theo. Really, really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Melanie. So there's myself. I run Ingot, which is a digital design studio. So what we do is we work with businesses to help them better communicate and showcase what they do online, but also using their website as a tool. So with any business, it grows, it scales, its needs and requirements change over time. So we work with businesses and strategize to figure out how can we turn their website into a tool that's functional yet also communicates what they do. So that's around building custom websites that work with subscriptions or memberships or large-scale e-commerce, or integrating with other third-party systems so they can be pulling data in from multiple locations and presenting that to their clients. So that's the space that we love to work in, is the digital design, brand design and websites. So that's Dan at Ingot. So I think, Garth, have you spoken already?
Yes, I have, Dan, but I just would like to also say the people on this this call today, remember that it's recorded, and please, please, please share this with the people in your groups, because it's just such an important message about how to get, but how to give, and how to give and how to get from TNG. But it's all about our cause, our values, our why. So please share this with others. Remind them that it's on, that it is recorded and it's available on YouTube. So thanks, Dan. Cheers.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Yes, it will be recorded, and we will be meeting in a fortnight with another session. So thanks everyone for joining in, and thank you, Theo, again. Heartwarming message. Always good to hear, and we will see you in a fortnight. Have a good weekend. Cheers.